Bishop to b7. Black is just shuffling around. Every day I'm shuffling. If you're a peaceful chess player, you're going to like our video, and I guarantee you're going to want to watch till the end because something amazing happens. This is actually our second chess records video, and I'm once again going to invite you to break the record that I'm about to show you. But this time, let's not keep it a mystery. I'm just going to announce it. This is the longest chess game that ended with a winner where neither player captured a piece, okay? It's got to end in a winner, so, no configured draws where you and your buddy get together to play a 75-move game. This is a real game played, there was a winner, and nobody captured a piece. So kind of peaceful until the very end when it ends up being not very peaceful at all. So we have this Owens defense and pawn to d4 taking over the center. Now I did show you a very recent ChessKid video where black tried bishop to b7 and then f5. That was a trap that did not work out well, and there were certainly lots of captures in that video, so this is not that. Okay, instead black played e6, kind of like a Queen's Indian defense. Bishop d3, bishop to b7. Now, it kind of looks like black might go for f5 here, and if we take, then the g2 pawn is hanging, but of course, that will involve some captures, and that's not the theme of today's video. You're not going to see a capture today. Like I said, it's kind of peaceful until it's not. Okay, so let's take a look. We had pawn to g6. Now, I will say in this game, black reacts way too passively. So even though we're having some fun, and we're going to see if you can set a record after this game, we are going to learn from this game as well. And I think black's main issue is that black never really struck at the center. And when he did, it was way too late. So we had castles, bishop to g7, knight to d2. Both sides are just developing. Now I would have probably put the knight on c3, but white's idea is that because the bishop is bearing down on d4, now white reserves the right to put the pawn there and solidify the center. So there is a method to this knight's madness. That's why he went to d2. Okay, knight to e7 for black, rook to e1, supporting the center and also giving the knight a new square to move to so we can develop our bishop. Okay, so we had castles. The knight did indeed go to f1. Now, at some point in this game, black needs to attack the center, and there's no time like the present. If you play e5, you kind of block your bishop in, and actually you kind of definitely lose a pawn. So I would play pawn to c5 in this position, and maybe make a hole in white's strong center. Instead, we had d6, just a little bit too passive. Now we had queen to e2, knight to d7, and if you look at black's setup, I wonder, is this the cow? Would Anna Cramling approve of this position? I think she likes to play h6 and a6, but this kind of looks like the cow. And, well, this is kind of maybe why she doesn't play it very much in her over-the-board tournaments, because there's just no space. Okay, so we had bishop to g5. Queen to e8, getting out of this pin. Rook to d1, centralizing. White has done nothing special so far. Taking control of the center, supported the pawns, gotten the rooks behind the pawns, and developed most of the pieces. This knight is going to get off the back row at some point. Now black plays a5. Very, very mysterious and suspicious move. Again, if we can back up, I would highly advise black to play c5, or black could even play e5 in this position, because now the e5 pawn has plenty of protection. But one of those two moves would be my recommendation. Instead, we had a5. Okay, white plays very slowly. c3, just supporting the center. Rook to c8, okay, but if you wanted to push the pawn to c5, we could have done a few moves ago. Knight to g3, white definitely has every piece involved in the game now. And at this point, black seems to be either stuck without a plan or unwilling to make a plan, because black just plays king to h8. Okay, that does clear out a square for a knight, but you're literally bringing the knight back to its starting square. Not exactly the most ambitious plan. Queen to d2. Now the queen lines up with the bishop, I guess stopping the move pawn h6, but now black plays knight to g8, guarding h6 again. It's not like pawn h6 wins the game or anything. I'm just trying to get inside the head of the opponents. Okay, we had h3, very, very slow move. Pawn to e5, hey, great job by black. Finally aiming at the middle of the board. But white keeps the tension. If white pushes this pawn, then the pawn no longer guards c5, and suddenly this knight hops into the game. So sometimes you want to keep the two pieces aiming at each other. That's called tension, and the stronger you get at chess, the more willing you are to leave the tension on the board. Bishop to c2. The bishop is working his way around to b3, and this bishop is actually, even though it's hard to see it right now, going to be the star piece. Now black gets h6 in. The bishop runs away. I should mention that at no point does black take, because then white would take back and the pawns would be mobile again, and this rook is also staring at the queen. So it's a little bit dangerous for black to be taking white's pawn on d4. Black plays rook to d8. Now this knight is struggling to get in the game. He can't exactly go to g5, so he plays knight to h2. This actually does two things. First of all, the knight can jump to g4 and be a third attacker on this pawn, but also it releases the f2 pawn to charge forward and attack the center more. Okay, black plays king h7, putting more support on the h6 pawn. We did have the move pawn to f4, and now black plays f6. Again, black is just really conceding all of the space on the chessboard. White plays queen to f2. We had knight to e7. Then we had some rook maneuvering. We had rook to d2, rook to h8. The king is going to duck behind his rook, and now the rook will support the pawn. Pawn to f5, punching a hole in the light squares. I do want to mention, this bishop on the light squares is way over on the queen side. So if white punches any holes on the light squares on the king side, then they're going to be weak, because that bishop, there's no way he's changing sides of the board in this game. Black tries to keep the game closed, but now the g6 square is available, and you don't have to ask white twice. The bishop was thinking about going to b3, but now the bishop says, you know what, I'm going to get myself to g6. And the bishop goes to d1. From d1, it's going to go to the square h5. And we had rook to b8. That gives the queen a little bit of air. So after bishop to h5, the queen could go left if she needed to, but she decided to go to the square f8. Now the bishop would love to charge in the position, and in fact, I'm actually a big fan of playing this move even though it drops a pawn, because what you're going to end up doing is getting an absolutely massive outpost on f5 for your queen or your knight. Let's take a look at that. Bishop check. The bishop is so strong that black would certainly have to capture. Now, of course, that would ruin our records because we would have a capture. But nonetheless, white would take. I don't really think you want to keep that pawn on the board. But if you take it, now this square is available. Queen jumps to f5 check. The king would have to run back, and immediately we actually win this knight. So we can see there's even a tactical justification to playing the move bishop to g6. But instead, we had knight to g4. I can also say I seriously doubt the players were aware that they were about to set a record in this game. They were just playing the best moves possible, because who really knows the record for longest decisive chess game without a capture? Yeah, nobody, except for, chess nerds like me who make chess videos, okay? So we had bishop to a6. I guess black is just stuck without anything to do. Rook to e1. Pawn to b5. Okay, black is just pushing random pawns. Pawn to b4. Now, everything would get messed up if black played pawn takes pawn. And black maybe should play pawn takes pawn. But instead we had a4. a3, bishop to b7. Black is just shuffling around. Every day I'm shuffling. Wait. I was really bad at singing that song. Rook to d3, and now black makes a decisive mistake. Remember, we just said black is shuffling around? Well, maybe black should move the rook or move the bishop again. Instead, black decides I'm going to shuffle with the knight. But after knight to c6, now the knight's not guarding g6 anymore. That's a weird outpost, but it's also a winning outpost. Bishop to g6 check. The king only has one move. Queen jumps to a2. Who saw that coming? And the black king is essentially checkmated. Now, the funny thing is, if black played it all the way to checkmate just to allow the mate to have him, it would mess things up because white would have to capture something. If black put the pawn in the way, or if black put the queen in the way and allowed the queen to take, then we would actually have a capture and we would not set a record. But because black resigned in this position, we have the longest game in the history of chess where there was a winner, but neither player made a capture. 31 moves. Chess kids, challenge yourself to do this. You can play against a human in our live server, or you can play one of our animal bots. Now, they won't know you're trying to set the record, so don't let them capture any of your pieces. See if you can win a longer game, 31 moves, without making a capture. If you do, write to us, and maybe I'll make a ChessKid video out of your superstar effort.